and welcome back to another episode of We Read It One Night. We're still on our hiatus, but we wanted to bring you one of our most fun episodes to record, How to Find a Princess by Alyssa Cole. Enjoy this episode, and we will see you soon. And in the meantime, please don't forget to leave us a rating and review wherever you're listening. That really, really is the best and free way to support this podcast because it helps us get discovered by new people and helps new people just, come and join the We Read It One Night community. Also, we're on hiatus. We'll be adding new designs to our Etsy store every week, so don't forget to check that out in the link in the description, and enjoy the show.
So, big news. We got our TikTok back, bitches. Woo! Almost 6 weeks to the day after we lost it. Just get a casual email that's like, there's nothing wrong. Thanks for your patience.
We know how
You're welcome,
your
TikTok.
account is to you.
You're welcome.
Very rude. I'm listening to this book, this historical romance, and I really like it, except for the fact that, you know how Charles Dickens was paid by the word, and that's why
it's so long.
all his prose is long-winded.
Yeah.
So I swear to God, this author was paid by the number of times that she can dunk on corsets. Because I have never in my life, most historicals will include a throwaway line or two about how the main character can't breathe in her corset, or how it's so stiff, or whatever, how uncomfortable they are. But this, it's every other chapter. They just had their first sex scene.
So much.
And he takes off her corset, and she's like, oh, thank God that I'm out of that. And he's like, oh, I hate those. Why can't they invent something else? And she's like, all of womankind would be indebted to the person who invents something to replace the corset. And I'm like,
and that's
no!
That's a man popping up from the corner.
I was like, I just don't, I don't understand. No, and I had a whole conversation. I went to dinner with a friend in New York, and we were talking about corsets because she is also passionate about corset slander. And she sent me this whole thread about this historical, clothes person. And they were like, yeah, whalebone corsets, that's what you always hear is the uncomfortable kind. It's so stiff. Whalebones, it's literally, they're flexible. They're so flexible that you can literally twist it in a spiral. A 500-year-old whalebone, you can twist in a spiral and it will not crack. It's so they're not.
That makes sense.
And it fits better because your body heat warms them up, and so the corset molds to your shape as you wear it. So it's even more
what leather shoes.
I'm why are you? Yeah, leather shoe, short. Maybe you need whatever.
Yeah. Wow. Unbelievable.
Stop the corset slander. They're just bras with better back support.
Wow. So I just got back from mostly Montana. We went to 4 different states, but it spent the most time in Montana. And I don't know if we have any John Mayer fans, who personally I am not a huge fan of, mostly because I think it's really creepy that he dated a 19-year-old when he was 30. But he lives in Montana, in Livingston, Montana, which we stayed in. But the exact location of his ranch is a secret. And even though I'm not super into John Mayer, we got so into solving this mystery and trying to find his house. We were literally looking up property records, trying to match the back. He's done photo shoots at the house. Obviously some people know where it is. And I was trying to match them up with the horizon, the mountains. And we drove out there. And the conclusion I've come to is that he's definitely down a private road, which if it were just me, I definitely would have risked it and driven down some private roads. But my friends that I was with were I don't know about going down Montana. And to be fair, if there's anywhere that people are going to enforce, if you know what I mean, their private property, it's going to be there. But
here's my question for you. Doesn't the one friend you were with work for the FBI?
No, she doesn't. She was going, yeah, no, she doesn't.
I'm
No.
saying,
I know,
I'm
that's
saying,
what
would
we were
that be a
joking, I know.
positive or a negative? You know what I
That's
mean? Because she'd be
yeah.
like, I'm the FBI. This is a sir
Oh
or
my
whatever.
god, oh my god. I thought you were gonna
Or would she be like disciplined more strictly?
I think that would be definitely frowned upon. I had no desire to harass him. Like, I was not interested in even, like, meeting him. I honestly could not have cared less. I just, like, for some because it was a secret, I was like, "Oh my gosh, like, we have you can't keep
It's a
this from me."
challenge.
Yeah, the challenge, exactly. It was like, we failed, though. John Mayer won, us 0. I bet the people, like, in Livingston definitely know, but I couldn't think of, like, a smooth way to I mean, they probably
You
protect him,
should
you know
have
what I
gone on
mean?
like Tinder or something. Like
I'm
seduced one
permanently
of the
banned from
locals and been
Tinder,
like,
so
so okay, well Hinge then or like Bumble,
yeah.
whatever. And been like, so
Just
where's
yeah.
John Mayer's house?
Just in case anyone thinks that the Tinder and the TikTok are related, the Tinder was actually just me, like, messing around. I was like, "I'm never gonna use this again. Let me just, like" anyway, it's not
Rachel was trying to
I was
extort money
banned
from
for a
people on
reason. I was banned for a reason on Tinder. I will admit that. I'm not really ashamed of it. It is what it is. The TikTok thing was not our fault.
Anyway, I don't have a smooth connection to that other than the fact that the book we're talking about today also has secrets in it.
Betrayal and
Secrets
betrayals.
and famous people are involved, like rich and powerful people are also involved. Yeah, today we're doing How to Find a Princess by Alyssa Cole, which is a Sapphic Anastasia retelling. And I will say, you know that, I mean, I don't know whether I've made this clear, but I love spoilers in like all capacities. Like I go down Wikipedia, like fan Wikipedia deep dives for shows that I will never watch. Like for example, I know a lot about Stranger Things season 4, despite the fact that it's far too scary for me to ever actually watch. So I love spoilers. I'm an advocate for everyone spoiling themselves at all times. But this book has a really huge plot twist at the end that I like did not see coming at all. So if you want that maintained for you, you should read this book and then come back and listen to this episode. And like normally I would not warn about this kind of stuff, but I like remember when that plot twist was revealed, I was like, no way.
So this book was like hilarious.
It was so funny.
I was like laughing out loud, like I listened to like probably 2 hours of it, and then a week later the rest of it, just because I was on a trip. But like I was like, there's so many times that I was like literally like cackling. The only thing is that they spent way more time on a ship than I expected.
Well, it was like it was very similar to the 1990s animated Anastasia, which is when I hear Anastasia retelling, I'm assuming it's that movie because like I don't know of any other Anastasia stories in which like, you know, like
Yeah.
I was like, oh, it's a little nod to 1990s Anastasia with except without the magic Rasputin and like the bat. There was no Rasputin, unfortunately.
I know. Well, like what do we think about the cat? There's no Rasputin, but like there was like a fun little like
Oh wait, Rasputin could be Lord Higgins' bosom.
yeah. I mean,
He
there's
could be
definitely a
Rasputin, but like
villain.
with significantly less sex appeal. Because real life Rasputin like got some, and like history had like he's been slandered in history. You know,
Yeah.
credited with like the fall of the Russian monarchy and like witchcraft and all shit. But really, he was just a guy. He was like a random priest who also fucked, and like he so many ladies at court, but it was literally just because like he bathed and believed in like
Oh
eating
yeah.
pussy. Lord Higgins Bosom is not like that though. Back to the book. Wait, I want to say all the like 1-star Goodreads reviews for this, or like most of them, were talking about how the one heroine. So there's 2 heroines because it's Sapphic. It's Makeda and Besnaria, who goes by Bez. And everyone was talking about in their 1-star reviews like how unlikable Makeda is. And so like I
What?
was like,
Are you fucking
no,
kidding me?
listen to me. Like that she's like a super unlikable heroine. And she is like kind of prickly. She spends most of the book, I'm not saying they're right, but I'm saying she spends most of the book like trying to hold herself back. Like she has a very big wall up. And I just like realized, like I came to the realization while reading this book, I realized that people who complain about unlikable heroines, like 1% of the time the heroine is just genuinely sucks. Like characters do suck sometimes. But like the unlikable heroine, I'm like, I just think you guys like lack empathy.
Yeah.
I think that is like the actual point here. And especially, and it's also like internalized misogyny, because a lot of times when someone's like an unlikable heroine, if they had the same traits but in a man, they'd be like, oh my God, what a morally gray hero. I love them. But yeah, I was like Makeda has like such traumatic
That's so bizarre.
childhood.
Because so her whole thing is that she's like a huge people pleaser. Like she will go out of her way to help you, like whether you want it or not. Like
She was
to
like
her own detriment.
wildly like parentified by her
Right.
mom growing
And
up.
not even, and just like a full, just like other abuse too. Like her mom's an alcoholic.
Neglect, like a lot of things.
Right, because of that. But the whole time, like she's talking about how people are always telling her she's like not enough or like not fit. And I just like couldn't figure out like why like any, like I just, until like I saw a little bit toward the end, like I guess if she's like helping things, but like actually like you didn't actually want her to, and like making it worse. But like I just like could not, I was like, I just couldn't understand why she would ever get like a negative reaction from people. So that's bizarre, because I could see Bez is a little like, you know,
Bez is just chaotic.
pathological.
That is really like throughout the book. Makeda's like, oh my God, she has such chaos energy. I'm like, I'm really.
They all call her,
and I'm like, Bez is very chaotic. She's like a fucking tornado.
So basically, Makeda's backstory is that she was raised by a single mother and her grandmother. And her grandmother had the story that her mother's biological father was a man who told her he was Prince Kashan from this like small kingdom of Aburania. And her mother became obsessed with that, and her whole mission was to prove that she was a princess and that Makeda was a princess. But the mom was simultaneously an alcoholic, and it all culminated with like a really embarrassing scene for Makeda when her mom came to school drunk and was telling everyone that Makeda was a princess, and so Makeda was bullied for that.
It didn't even culminate in it. That was just like part of the journey.
Like, right.
And like the mom was so obsessed with it that like she's literally on like the Aberranian embassy's watch list. Like they're like, don't let this woman on the property.
And she basically put that above her actual daughter. And then when Makeda was like 17, she remarried and moved away and just left Makeda with the grandmother and was just like, peace, like I'm out.
Yeah, the mom just genuinely sucks and never... No, like she doesn't get a redemption arc. Like she never really apologizes. Like she's still obsessed with this princess thing, even though she's technically recovered. Like, yeah, she just sucks overall.
So Makeda like has basically what she's gotten from that, what she's internalized is that she needs, like if people need her, then they'll keep her around, and if not, they'll like ditch her. So she's just a off the charts people pleaser. Literally is in thousands of dollars of debt because she co-signed a loan for someone like
an ex-girlfriend for what was it? A pet party planning business?
Yes.
Which, like, quite frankly, if I had a pet and lots of disposable income, like I would totally be into that. I would 100% be hiring.
The problem is like, where do you find those people? So yeah, basically that's her whole thing. And we open up, she works at a grocery store and she's applied for a promotion to be like manager. And her boss is like, yeah, you just like are too helpful. It doesn't make sense. Why? He's like, you just can't say no to anyone. Like
she doesn't get the promotion and then gets fired essentially because she's like too good at her job. Like that seems to be the summary of it.
Right. And this is where I was trying to picture, like, because she's like slightly late for the meeting because she stopped to help a customer, and he's like, oh, that's just you. You're just too like, you can't say no. And I'm like, yeah. But like I just can't imagine, because she basically is keeping the whole place running. Like,
yeah, well, he doesn't realize that. I think he just like doesn't realize how instrumental she is, because she does it like halfway through the book. He's like, oh my God, please come back and like take 2 promotions. But
like, take my job.
He's like, oh my God. But here's my thing. Here's the thing. It's like the way I saw it in the book that is described, like why her people pleasing is so bad. I mean, so in this specific instance, like she wouldn't, like in her current people pleasing state, she wouldn't be a good leader because she can't say no to people. She can't like lay down the law. She can't set boundaries. Also, and she's not good at like delegating. Right, also, that's what it was. And like in her relation, because she goes home after getting fired and her girlfriend Steph is like secretly moving all of her things out because she's like going to break up with her. And her girlfriend Steph is like, you're always doing stuff for me. Sometimes I don't want you to do stuff for me. Makeda is like, it's like she's like a classic dad in some ways where you're like, I like avocados. And then for the next 10 years, your dad buys you pounds and pounds of avocados and is constantly giving them to. Can you tell I have a personal experience with this? Like I had that thought as I was listening, because that's what Steph is describing. She's like, sometimes I don't need you to like buy me a bunch of avocados just because I said I like them one time. Right. And I still like Steph still sucks in the book, like makes you know that Steph sucks because she is like ultimately taking advantage of Makeda, but like that's how I saw it.
So Makeda's like, fuck, I just lost my job, I lost my girlfriend, and she gets a conveniently timed phone call from her grandmother, Grandmore. And Grandmore runs an Airbnb, or not Airbnb, a B&B in Atlantic City. And she's like, hey, like, why don't you just come home and like live at home again? And on this, I think on the same phone call, or maybe when she gets there, the grandma mentions that Aberania is doing a search for its heir because the previous queen, like during World War II, basically disappeared mysteriously. And they're trying to find the heir.
Which I didn't really understand this. So the Aberranian lineage is like, it seems to be like matriarchal, like it are not matriarchal, but like they just happen to have all female heirs from like the first pirate queen until the one that was married to the queen that disappeared. He was the first male heir.
Yeah.
It's like explicitly stated he was the first male heir. And so I don't understand why a child of the queen that wasn't conceived with the king would be.
Yeah, I mean, I guess maybe their succession rules are like it goes down the line, but like if the spouse survives the other person, it bounces to the spouse if there's no kids.
They think like that, like somehow she was pregnant when she disappeared. I don't know. Like
there's no very rule confused. That's a very like European thing, and it's Aberrania is supposed to have like I forget like African and like Sicilian like cultural influences. So there's no inherent reason it has to be. Like that.
I know
it could easily bounce to the spouse instead of like going to the siblings or something. Like that's how wills work. So why not titles?
Okay, sure.
Right? No, really. Like your spouse get, So Makeda is like absolutely not. Like I've had it with that. Yeah, I never wanted it to begin with, and it like I hope you didn't fucking tell mom. Because this will just, and the grandma's like, she definitely knows.
No, she was like, I didn't tell mom. She was like, I didn't.
Mom finds out.
But okay, so we got some great lines that established the grandmother as like some of the best characters in this thing. So first of all, she's like, the prince and the pauper? It was more like the prince and this pussy. It's like, grant more.
Me and Prince Kashan humped our way from Chicken Bone Beach to Margate.
I adore her. I adore Grandmore. And then she's like talking about how like a friend told her about the air search. And Makeda is like, is this the same friend who told you that 5G towers were summoning demons? And I was like, now I also want this friend to be.
She was just looking out for me. If you can't count on your homegirls to warn you about demons, they're not really your friends.
And I'm like, well, fair enough. I mean, that's true. If like my friends know demons are about and they don't tell me, like
who
that's
you
it.
Trust? Because like, okay, so a text chat forward about cash offered for missing royalty sounds legit.
And so we have that Makeda. So basically we have established Makeda wants nothing to do with her alleged royal heritage. She's like, this is nonsense. And even if it isn't, like, I don't care about it. Yeah. So then we flash forward to Besnaria, who is meeting with her boss, Lord Higginshagen. I think that's his name. It's like some ridiculous, like, collection of like nonsense British name, like just like the most British sounding name you can possibly think.
It's just it's absurd. Lord Higginshagens of Hagenshake. I just can't.
It's incredible. I love it. Alyssa Cole was like, I am gonna fucking roast this man. Like you're gonna know exactly who he is.
At one point, she's like, it's pronounced Smythe.
Like, and Besnar, so Lord Higginshagen is her boss, and they work for the World Federation of Monarchists. Which is never questioned. Like,
no,
there's no indication that anyone is ever like, that's the most ridiculous organization like I've ever heard of. Like everyone's like, oh my god, the World Federation of Monarchists. Like you're right. And essentially they're an organization. They're hired by Lord Higginshagen. They're like created by Lord Higginshagen, whose dad was like a king somewhere
like
for
bought
like
like a
30
title.
days, like in the like aftermath of World War II when everything was in shambles, and then he like immediately got ousted, and so Lynn Higginjoggin is like always trying to get that back or whatever. And their like whole thing is like looking for lost heirs, because apparently that is like a very common problem that like requires many investigators. They also like set up royal marriages,
No,
like they do
there's
like
like
royal
random
matchmaking.
there's just like random, it's never explained, but there's just like it's a few times it's just like offhand mentioned that Bez's previous job before being an investigator was to facilitate the royalmatch.com website.
Yeah,
And that's just never questioned.
that's
Like it's
amazing.
just
I do wonder, because Alyssa Cole has another. So this is the second book in this, I think it's Reluctant
Oh.
Royal series. She also has another book. The other series is also about royalty from like African nations that are like made up African nations. So Alyssa Cole, I think, has like a whole universe of like
Mm.
royalty that she has like totally made up, which is a common thing for like contemporary like royalty. Like you'll just like make up a country
Right.
and be like, yeah, it's an island off the UK that exists. Don't question it. So I was wondering, and I've only read the first one in that series. So I don't know whether the things that she was referencing are also like just like little nods to other.
Yeah. So Besnaria is basically like just she's like, I have had it with your bullshit, Higginshoggins. I'm here for one reason and one reason only, and it's to avenge my family honor. And
Oh,
she's like,
but she and like this whole thing, she's like roasting him in her head,
and
which is
out
already
loud.
hilarious. And then
Yeah.
she's like, she just roasts him to his face.
He's like, Besnaria, rules exist for, he has a fake British accent. Rules exist for a reason. And she's like, so do platypuses. They're much more mysterious and exciting though.
And then she's like, he has like a weak will, which is a word in Aberranian that roughly translates to a flaccid scepter.
And he's like staring at her, and it's like Bez resisted the urge to stare back, having been reprimanded for her staring contest reflexes.
And she is explicitly stated that Bez is some kind of neurodivergent. We never get like an explicit thing. And like, I feel like it could be autism. It could be maybe ADHD. ADHD was my first guess, but then like later on it was like autism. So I don't know. But yeah, her mind works
like,
differently.
Brain fireflies, which I really liked. I forget how it's exactly, but I was like, wow.
Yeah, every time she has a thought, like she's like,
she has like little lights in her head, and when it's like one that she needs to follow, it's like brighter.
And basically Bez is like the complete opposite of Makeda. Like Makeda like feels too much of people's emotions, and Bez like, it's not that she feels too little, but she is very, and that's what made me think autism is she is very like, she doesn't necessarily pick up on like those cues naturally.
She doesn't get guilted into things like at all, which is like a superpower, I feel like.
And she has the self-confidence of a god injected into my veins. Like, I need this.
But almost to the point of like, that's why I could have seen her being the character that people didn't like, because it's to the point of like selfishness a lot of the time, I think.
Yeah, but that's like, she like grows out of that. But even at the end of the book in which she's like learned and grown, she's still like, yes, I am the best person. Well,
she has even more
reason
I
don't want to spoil. I don't want to spoil. Like, because I wrote down the quote, I was like, this is incredible. Like, I want this. Like, I want to cross stitch this on the sampler.
And also like Makeda's mother like are into the princess heir thing, and Makeda's not, whereas Bez's like grandmother, who was the captain, so Bez's family, that's important, is like historically they're the royal guard of Aberrania, and her grandmother was the captain of the royal guard when like who quote unquote lost for the previous Queen Aziz. And so the grandmother's like, just leave it alone. Like, I don't care. But Bez is like obsessed with finding the lost heir. So it's like the opposite. Restoring her
family's honor.
Yeah.
She's also like implementing like secretly anti-imperialist schemes. She's like, when she worked on royalmatch.com, she like, I don't know, like connected people that like Lord Higginjoggin was like, that's not appropriate. And she was like, oh, I was just doing the job. And like, it makes sense according to the fine print of my contract, because she loves reading the fine print. Well, she like memorizes it.
Forgetting things that don't match her worldviews and memorizing the fine print are her two great strengths. So she's going to get sent to go interview candidates. And Lord Higginshoggins is explicitly like, we don't want an American heir. Like, that would be not ideal, which is never really explained why, but
well,
like
I feel like there was like a veiled
general
reference, I
snobbiness.
feel like, to Meghan Markle, because he was like, we've seen how Americans going into established aristocracy go, you know what I mean? Like,
Mm.
and like Lord Hickenshagen like being like racist and horrible is like very in character. So
Mhm. So back to Makeda. She's cleaning with Comet. How Bella Swan of her.
yes, I wrote that
Yeah,
down.
yes. Which if you don't know, it's like an old school like tub cleaning powder that is apparently very effective, but like you have to scrub. Not up to your elbows though. It doesn't foam that much. In case, yeah, Twilight's wrong.
Also,
Anyway.
don't stick your arms in it that far because like it's gonna burn.
There's no way to say it doesn't get that whatever unless you have very small. Unless you're a cat or something.
Whatever.
Anyway,
There is a cat.
there
There is
is
an
a cat.
excellent cat
So
in this Airbnb.
her coworker who got the promotion over her, who's like wildly incompetent, and Makeda was like covering for it the whole time. She like calls and like asks for help and like is like, well, really, this is stuff that you should have taken care of before you left. And I was like, Makeda like helps her.
She's essentially asking her how to do all the like Makeda set up all these systems to like organize the store, and like Lindsay's like trying to get it. It was like very like hating game. Like obnoxious coworker situation.
Like even worse because she like got her job. But yeah. So Makeda's vacuuming when there's a knock on the door, and Makeda's like, you know what? I'm gonna be selfish. I'm not gonna answer the door. But unfortunately for her, this is the one time
Bez knows how to pick locks. She breaks in.
And she breaks in, and Makeda like almost hits her with the vacuum cleaner. And Bez is like, Bez has like some kind of accent that I'm not going to try to replicate, but like she's like,
she has like a Northern African accent.
It's just like you have no idea how many people sense someone creeping up on them and turn around without even grabbing a butter knife.
Like she's like, good. Yeah, she's like, you have a vacuum. Like, good on you. And Makeda sees Bez and she's like, oh my God, she's so chaotic and I am so aroused. The like gist of this book, their relationship is like Makeda is so angry at being aroused by Bez, and Bez is like so bewildered at being aroused by Makeda. She's like, I don't understand what's going on.
Makeda says at least twice, she's like, I'm not an accent hoe, but hearing that voice, like But Makeda doesn't have an accent the first time we get her POV with Higgins-Shagan. Wait, maybe she
Bez?
doesn't. Yeah, Bez. Sorry, Bez doesn't have an accent, and that maybe
she does.
No, not in the first scene, because I wrote like, so she does, because I was thinking like, shouldn't she have an accent? And then here I was like, so she does have an accent. But that got me thinking about with audiobooks, like I feel like there's situations in which doing the accents for people's voices can like reveal identities before the author would have wanted them to, if you know what I mean. Like for example, like if the audience knows that like the baddie has a French accent, but like the character, like they're not supposed to know that the character they're hearing their perspective from like is the baddie yet or something, you know what I mean, then like it would give it away.
Sure.
So it's just something to think about.
It is a little bit of a reveal. Like we don't know Bez is Aberranian from the beginning of that scene. Like it's something that's sort of like revealed. But we also
don't know what like an Aberranian accent would be, you know. It's like but it's interesting. So yeah, sorry, after that aside, so they meet. They nearly
Makeda
fight.
like tries to kick her out immediately, and she's like pushing her back. And Beth's like, "Can you just go like a little bit higher? Because like I need a massage." Like that's what this feels like. Yeah. But then Kojak the cat appears, and he and Bez are immediately enemies, and I am like imagining Crookshanks from Harry Potter. Like that's how this cat is kind of described. Like it's squashy and like very ugly and like ready to fight at all times.
Bez is immediately like, that's a demon. That's not a cat. Like, get back from me, demon. Like she's scared of him.
But then Bez and Kojak eventually become like best friends.
And she's like, you can be my familiar. But wait. Ari, like, so wait, they must have thought that Queen Azee was pregnant or something, because Bez keeps talking about like how Makeda looks like she would be Al-Hordazi, which is the royal family.
Right,
and she has the birthmark, and she's like, you're much shorter than I expected of Al-Hordazi's stock, and lacking an obvious menace. You're about as intimidating as a sea snail.
Yeah, then she calls her a sea snail.
That's her nickname.
The rest of the book, and it's so cute. But then at one point she's like, it was a mistranslation. I meant sea slug. And I looked up sea slugs, and they actually are very cute and very pretty. Like
just snails. Yeah.
No, but like sea slugs are very like they're like bright and colorful a lot of the time, and like they look really cool. But we are in Bez's perspective, and she's like reflecting on Makeda and how like I don't know, like naturally violent she is towards Bez. And like Bez is like, if we were in the past, Makeda definitely would have run me through. And then she's like, am I attracted to this? Like
She's like, knife play was never my thing before.
she's like, but I could be convinced. Like, interesting.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah, like we said, Makeda has the royal family birthmark, which is like some birthmark on her neck. She also has like a fish scale ring, which is like the Aberranian like island
Which is
ring.
never explained.
I think it's just like he could have actually been from Aberrania. You know what I mean? Her like
Guess
biological
so.
grandfather, he could just be some like commoner from Aberrania who was like, yeah, I'm the
Yeah.
lost prince.
Yeah.
You know, like that's
Yeah.
probably, you know, I would totally do that. It's like how sometimes like I tell people that I'm like the lost heir to like the Montenegrin throne. And they're like, not the lost heir, but I'm like, yeah, I'm descended. Like if it still existed. And they believe me. It's a great way to get free drinks.
So Bez is like, I'm not leaving. Sorry. Like, I'm not taking no for an answer. That is not in my skill set to take no for an answer.
So Bez is like, she explains the whole situation. She's like, I want to bring you back. There's like an air contest. It turns out that it's all for tourism. She's like, you're not actually like going to be the queen of anything. Like you're just like, it's just for tourism, which is like, yeah, fair enough. Like I understand like the Ministry of Tourism is running it. And then Bez is like, any questions? And Grandmore is like, are you a lesbian? Because you're hot and you should date my grandmother. My grandmother. Yeah. Makeda's like, grandma. And Bez is like, I'm Pan, but yeah.
Looking out for you. Oh, another birthmark that Makeda allegedly has is the dimple of doom. I would just like that.
Yes.
Too. Like another like hereditary trait. And Makeda's like, you can't believe my grandmother. Like, she has multiple emails so she can keep using free trials. Like, you can't trust her. And I'm like, who doesn't, girl? Like, Makeda, like, you're
she
just getting
sounds
played.
Great.
Like,
that's fucking genius. Yeah. Like, you're in debt. You should take as many free trials as you can.
Yeah.
Emails are free. Yeah. She tells people it's her birthday to get free meals like at restaurants.
Yeah.
Like she'll do that, which we did. Okay. When we were in Connecticut, we were getting dinner with my friend. So we went to Connecticut to see my friend in like a show that she's in there, and we took her out to dinner afterward, like before her evening show. And when she went to the bathroom, we told the waitress, we were like, oh, it's her birthday, like can we get like a little cake and candles? And her birthday's in January, so it wasn't her birthday. We were like, oh, like it's fun, like we'll get her like a little cake. And a lot of the times when you tell people it's the birthday, they give it to you for free. And my other friend that was there, he was like, she is totally gonna just like yell, it's not my birthday. Like she's totally the type of person to do that. And do you know what she did? She sat down, they brought out the cake, and we started singing. And she was like, it's not my birthday. And then she's like, my birthday's in January. And I was like, be cool for like 2 seconds. Yeah, so the grandma's a scammer.
Complimentary.
Makeda is like, yeah, a scammer compliment. Well, I just feel like there are very few situations in which scammer is like derogatory, in my opinion.
Not just, you've seen way fewer Netflix documentaries about like those men who trick women into giving them tons of money.
I don't consider them scammers. I just consider them like psychopaths. Like you don't get scammer unless you're a little just like fun and chaotic. For me personally, like that's how I use scammer.
It sounds like a lot like mom using the word jerk as a euphemism for domestic violence.
So Bez realizes that Makeda, like why she's so reluctant is that she was like bullied. Bez, like she has this thought, and I want to preface this by saying like she thinks this in a nice way, but like when I tell you the quote, it's going to sound mean, but it's definitely like a nice, like she's like, not everyone was like Bez, with an innate knowledge of her worth, nay, superiority as a human specimen.
It doesn't sound mean.
I just feel like it's like, it sounds like really full of herself, but like she's saying it and I'm like, oh, well, not everybody has like the like self-confidence that I do. And like, so like Makeda was bullied and she has a lack of self-confidence and I need to help her. And Makeda's like, do I look like a princess? And Bez, as she is taking off her shirt to reveal a white tank top underneath, to also reveal her like Michelle Obama level of jacked arms.
It's gotta be more than Michelle Obama.
Like
there's no way
she's
Michelle
so
Obama is
strong.
like is like cargo ship crew level. Like
right,
that's what Bez is. Yeah,
like Rebecca from Ted Lasso kind of arms. These are the kind of like very very toned arms. She's wearing a white tank top. So like, okay, we set the scene for like arousal. And then she's like, no, you don't look like a princess. You look like a queen. And then Bez, like, she gets like horny, but she's like, is this just the feeling of the blood oath that my ancestors made to Makeda's ancestors? Or am I aroused right now? Like, hard to tell.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, her brain fireflies kind of remind me of like my premonitions. Like it's the same kind of thing. It's like, she's like, when it comes to Makeda Hicks, she wasn't sure what was driving her decisions. Instinct or a subliminal message being transmitted by the brain fireflies interfering with her main objective. Because I feel like the fireflies are kind of just like a feeling without an explanation of like what you should do next. You know what I mean? Or like a thought to grab onto
like
without
intuition.
like not just intuition, but like your brain is processing it, but not like putting it into like explanations yet. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like all the reasons are there. You're just not like consciously processing them.
Right.
I get that a lot. So Bez is like, listen. I'm totally like wink, wink, fingers crossed. I'm not going to pressure you. But why don't you just let me like hang out here? I'll do some repairs in exchange. You guys don't have any guests anyway. I'll do some repairs. I noticed there's a few shingles on the roof that need repairing. And Makeda's like, wait, when were you on the roof?
Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it. Don't ask questions. And the grandma's like, of course. Makeda's like, no. And the grandma's like, well, like, were you planning to get it done? Like, you're gonna
the
really
sink
like
needs fixing. Like, are you gonna do that?
Right.
No,
and
I didn't think
Bez
so.
is like, good.
And Makeda's like, what do you plan on kidnapping me? And Bez in her head is like, I considered it, but I did ultimately reject that path.
Yeah.
She's like, it was on the table briefly.
Yes, it seemed reasonable at the time. Still might. And so Bez's like romantic history is that she's like kind of a heartbreaker. Like she's had a lot of girlfriends, but like, and most of them like wanted to be more serious, but she was the one who always like, you know, wasn't prepared for that.
She's too focused on like restoring her family honor.
Right.
She's like, I don't have time for like that kind of shit.
Right. And she never really gets to learn that like wasn't a good thing to focus on, which is interesting.
Well, because she was right. She turned out
she was right, but it wasn't like probably good to like devote your whole life to that. So because of that, Bez's dad has given her the 4 rules of romance, which I love. So number 1, the first rule, if something pisses her off, do the opposite of that. Okay. Straightforward enough. 2, if you piss her off, apologize. 3, if she likes kissing, kiss her a lot. 4, when she talks, pay attention to the details. Bez is like, well, what's pissing Makeda off is like me being here and trying to get her into this princess shindig. I can't do the opposite of that, but I can't apologize.
And I can also kiss her, baby. No, don't think about that.
No. That's against the contract, against the fine print. They haven't signed a contract yet. But and Bez is like, she's like, I'm sorry, like I can't, leave. I don't leave jobs unfinished unless it's a job I don't feel like doing. And being annoying is a useful tool in getting people to do what you want. I was like, yeah. You're right. I think that's also a useful tool in making them not want to be around you.
Yeah. And Bez is also like, she also has this philosophy. She's like, I don't lie unless it's for a job, because it doesn't count if you're lying for a job. But like, and like, it is funny when you hear that, and then you kind of find out the reason why like later, and you're like, ooh, that's a coping mechanism right there. And it's a little bit more serious, but I just thought it was funny because she's like, Makeda's like, you lied to me, and Bez is like, it doesn't really count though. And Bez starts doing like for Makeda, like what Makeda did to like all her ex-girlfriends, where she's like offering to tuck her into bed and like offering to like do all these things for her. And Makeda's like, oh, I kind of get it now. I get why that was so annoying. I understand. This makes sense.
Yeah. And Makeda's like still in her like, I'm like a changed person and I'm no longer like a helper or whatever.
She definitely is.
Her grandma's like, you're the same person, you just don't smile anymore. Like that's the only difference. She does finally tell Lindsay off, and she's like, I immediately feel the guilt, but also an unfamiliar pleasure. I put my foot down and apologized. Like, I'm sorry, and not apologized, and hadn't apologized.
And this is the part after she's ended up with Lindsay is the part that you allegedly missed, because this is when they go on the Ferris wheel.
I re-listened to it. I did.
Makeda Makeda's, Rachel like texted me. She's like, did they go on a Ferris wheel at some point? They keep referencing this.
it.
And I was like, it is like a 2-chapter long scene. Like, what do you mean? Did they go on a Ferris wheel? So yeah, Makeda tells off Lindsay and then she like goes to relax on the Ferris wheel. And like, as she like gets into the car and then like Bez like Tom Cruise Mission Impossible, like sprints up the ramp to like dive into the car after like in her. And Makeda's like, are you fucking kidding me?
She starts doing jumping jacks in the Ferris wheel.
She's checking. I interpreted that as like she's checking like how sturdy it is.
Oh my god! While it's in the air,
because she's constantly like security, like whatever. And then Bez is like, she essentially they have this whole conversation, which I fucking adored this conversation. Like, thank you, Alyssa Cole, where she is like, Bez is like, you're hot. Makeda's like, no, I'm not. Like, tucks a strand of hair behind her ear, and Bez is like, wow. The American movies are right. Beautiful women do sit around pretending that they're not beautiful. Do you also trip over things and eat pints of ice cream too? And I was like, oh my God.
And then Bez is like, so how many people do you think have had sex in here? Like, it'd be pretty hard, right? But like it's had it, but like, you know, it's gotta be a challenge. And then that just like keeps coming back up. And Makeda's like, I don't fucking know, but like stop talking about it because I'm like angry that I'm attracted to you. And Bez is like, I can't remember what this is like in relation to, but she's like, I don't know. She's like, you're annoying or something. And Bez is like, you'll become accustomed to it. Like a sea snail in climate change warmed seas.
So later, Bez and Grandmore are making pizza, and Bez is like tossing the dough like a hot little pizza making lady, and she has her shirt sleeves rolled up. And Makeda's like, oh my fuck, look at those forearms, like, oh my God. And I love that this is like a gender neutral thing. This is being established as a gender neutral thing in romance, like shirt sleeves rolled up of dress shirt, hot, no matter who's doing it.
That is something though that I kind of picked. It just felt like a lot of, I don't know. But I don't know how fair this is because I don't know like how common it just a lot. Sometimes I just got the vibe that like Bez was like almost like a man like hero, but just like written like she was just like a woman, but the things about her and like, you know, and despite the fact that this is a lesbian romance, we still could not get away from
the like
lesbian.
Bez is not.
Sorry, a sapphic
women,
two women. We still could not get away from the whole like the huge height difference. Like that was just like hammered in. Like Makeda is really small and Bez is really big. Like and Bez is so strong and muscly and like what like I don't know. Maybe that's like just as common.
I see what you mean, but I also think that like I don't know. I think you're allowed to write.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Just because that's like a common trope with like het romance. Yeah. Like I understand like the whole like, okay, well, would this be the same if Bez were a man? But like I don't necessarily think
that's okay. It would be, but
like I don't think it would be necessarily the same.
No, I don't like everything about her. Like I definitely like she definitely felt like a woman, but like I just feel like the little things were still thrown in, which maybe is just like a nod to the genre. I don't know, but
I think it was like, well, yeah, because at one point, Bez is wearing a tight Henley and gray sweatpants, and I was like, Alyssa Cole, I see what you've done here. And so that was a thought that I occasionally had where I was like, oh, this seems like Bez is having like a lot of these sort of like typical romance hero attributes. But I felt like in my mind, it was more of like, okay, this is like a reclaiming, like that this doesn't have to just be like the grumpy heroes that have these like women, like sapphic romance can have this as well.
Yeah, we had this like little domestic pizza making scene, and Makeda's like, I always like tried to integrate my girlfriends into my life with Grandmore, but like all of them were so frustrated that I wanted to spend so much time with her. And we learned that Makeda hasn't been home in 5 years, despite the fact that she's also really close with her grandmother and family. And so it was like a nice little like they have similar values and like they would, you know, mesh well. And I just thought this was funny. So Makeda, like I guess post Ferris wheel pre-dinner, decided to go check out the local casinos, which there are many of in Atlantic City. But she's like, they tried.
Bez did this.
Yeah, Bez. Sorry, Bez. She's like, I was chased off the premises because they tried to accuse me of breaking the arm off the slot machine. I told them it wasn't my fault that they used a machine that relied on a button but still had an arm. Like ridiculous. So she's just like yanking. Break the like entire.
She just ripped it off. She doesn't know her own strength.
Okay, it's like I just picture her like warding them off with the like broken arm, like running backwards through the casino. Oh my god.
So then Makeda's mom calls and she's like, hey, like, what about that air search? And it just like fully tips Makeda over the edge.
Mhm.
And so Makeda like angrily goes up to tell Bez to leave. She's like ready to just be like, fuck this, like leave. But then so Bez wears like glasses, like round, like glasses all the time, and they're constantly smudged because she's constantly pushing them up like on the glass with her finger.
Mhm.
And then like Makeda goes up, like grabs her glasses, furiously cleans them, and like puts them back on. She was like, fine.
Yeah, which is funny because well, she does later realize like maybe I shouldn't have done that. But I just remember hearing a secondhand, this is like a third hand story. One of my friends telling me about like or maybe it was like, yeah, secondhand. She was meeting her other friend's boyfriend for the first time and they were at dinner. And he, in the middle of dinner, looks at her and goes, like, oh, your glasses are smudgy. You should clean them. And she was like, that was like the rudest thing anyone's ever said to me. Like, I can't believe he would do that. And she was like, yeah, I liked him up until that point. But now I'm like, you're not a good fit for, like,
Yeah,
so
I get
which
that.
I
Well, I
always
think
thought,
it's
I don't get that, but it's interesting because I don't know. I wonder what
well,
other
they
people
were at it.
think.
Wait, were they at a dinner by themselves or like
It was like my friend,
with
the friend and the boyfriend
so
and like another
they're like
person.
with people. I feel like it's the same thing as like
But no, I mean,
you're I don't know, like I just feel like
yeah,
telling
you
your
don't need to
partner
be
something like that in
told.
front of other people instead of being like, hey, there's a smudge on your glasses, want me to get that for you? You know
No,
what I
no,
mean?
he
Like,
told the friend. He told like my friend, not his girlfriend. Like that he was just
oh,
meeting.
oh no, that's a dick move. What? Don't tell someone you just met. Like I feel like that's the same thing as walking up to someone you just met
Yeah.
and be like, oh, that haircut doesn't look good on you. Like
Yeah, I guess
what?
so. Yeah,
I
I
just so
guess.
why are you insulting someone you just like? It would be bad enough if it was his girlfriend, like and he was doing it in front of her friends. Like, just
Mm.
don't.
Well, also like you wouldn't ever need to be told that your glasses are smudgy. Like there's no situation in
Yeah,
which you literally are looking through like
right. It's like, clearly I don't care. So like, why do you care? Yeah.
yeah. As is like I don't clean them very often because there's a tiny bit of magic in the moment that my glasses go from dirty to clean, which is true. But however, I would rather just have magically
Be able to
clean
see.
glasses all the time. Yeah. She's like, I never thought dirty glasses talk was my kink before.
Oh my god.
So so Makeda, like, some madness comes over her and she decides to go in for a kiss, but she manages to like cut her lip on Makeda's teeth, on Bez's teeth somehow. Like, and then like somehow Bez finds out about that, like Makeda was like, well, she knew that she was teased, but she's basically like, oh, do you want me to like track them down, like track down your bullies and like
She's like, what's their names?
make
Oh, they
them,
went to that
yeah.
school.
Oh, I can find them. Like,
It's like, don't beat people up for what they did in middle school. And Bess is like, why not?
you're still thinking about it. Why shouldn't they?
Why shouldn't they be in pain if it's still causing you pain? I'm like, fair point. Fair enough. I mean,
Makeda's like, good night. Hopefully you'll be gone in the morning, which is very like, good night, Wesley. I'll most likely kill you in the morning. Princess Bride, if you're unfamiliar. Yeah. But she gets back to her door. Makeda goes back to her room. And what is on the handle? Bez is like, I won you something. I left it for you. And it's a little scrunchie with a plush snail on it. She like left it at the door for her like a puppy. Like she's like,
like a puppy bringing socks.
bringing you like a
Your golden
like
retriever collecting
yeah.
socks. So. Oh, I love
so
that.
Cute.
Yeah, the next day, Bez is fixing the sink, and then her shirts get wet, and Makeda's like, "Oh fuck!" Like, God damn it, the wet t-shirt. And then she like goes to get her like a B&B like tchotchke
like,
shirt.
Yeah.
And then Bez puts it on and then rips off the sleeves to make room for her biceps. And I was like, I'm aroused now. Like, oh, what the fuck? That was the hottest thing I've ever read.
Can I just say that while fixing the sink, Bez is like, this is not fun. Like, it sounds like on American TV shows. They lied to me. But she's also listening to Aberranian house music on headphones while doing that. And I just would like to hear some Aberranian house music. I'm very intrigued.
Yeah, is it just like
sounds? I don't know. I was
like,
probably just like maybe. I mean, it's unclear if there's a language, Aberranian language. So I don't know. But I
would imagine it sounds like some combination of like Greek house music and like Egyptian house music because it's somewhere in that area of the world.
Fair enough.
But I actually could not tell you what either of those sounds like. I don't know.
Yeah, is house music
I'm
house
not
music, or is
oddly
it?
enough, I'm not familiar with house music. I'm not intimately familiar with the intricacies of it. Yeah, Makeda gets the call about getting her job back and getting a double promotion. And she's like, okay, great. Like, I'm not gonna have to do the princess thing. Oh, and about the princess thing, there's like a prize. Like, if you get selected, like if you're the princess, it turns out you're the princess, you get like there's like a prize money thing. Yeah, Makeda's like, oh, I can just pay off the debt that I have because I co-signed my ex-girlfriend's loan with my new job, but then the bill collectors come. And because Makeda is also like a part owner in the B&B, the bill collectors are like, we're going to repossess the B&B to like pay off this like other loan. And so she's like, fuck, like I have to go to Alberania now. And then Bez is like, I have a side hustle called Damsel in Distress Rescue Services LLC.
Oh my god.
And then it's basically she's like, I like help
My
women in
sidekick.
trouble, I guess. And then Makeda like accepts the Damsel in Distress Rescue Services LLC deal.
And Bez is like, I've realized that I've been playing my cards wrong this whole time. Like, I've been playing up the parts of this that most normal people would like the getting money and like being famous and getting to dress up. But that's also something Makeda hates. So just so you know, even a ceremonial monarchy requires constant work without much recognition. You'll be exhausted and miserable if that makes it easier for you to give it a shot. Just so you know.
It kind of does. It kind of does make it better for me. And then, but Makeda's like, she's mostly worried about just like she was as a kid of like people laughing at her. And she's like, people are going to look at me and they're going to be like, no way, she could be a princess. And Bez is like, no one will laugh at you. And Makeda's like, you can't guarantee that. And then Bez pulls out a goddamn knife.
Oh my God.
She's like, yes, I can. I was like, what do you mean, Bez, you weren't into knife play? Like, you are definitely, like, there's definitely some knife play involved in there. Like,
100%.
I would like, Alyssa Cole, I would like a bonus knife play scene somehow, please.
So Bez has arranged standby transportation for them. She's also somehow through some shady way managed to get Makeda a passport. Makeda like questions this, and Bez is like, what do you think monarchy stands in line waiting for a passport? If something needs arranging, I will arrange it, don't worry. But I'm like, I don't think there's any legal way to get, I don't know.
You can get a last minute passport if you pay a lot of money.
Right,
I remember I was going on a vacation with a friend and her passport expired. Like,
I understand that, but can you get a last minute passport for someone else who's not like your child or
I mean, all you got to do
elderly?
is submit the information.
I guess so, and get a picture.
Yeah, but like, you think Bez doesn't have a whole dossier?
I'm just picturing that Makeda is like a very heavy sleeper, and Des just like sneaks in one night and like opens her eyelids open.
Click. Like Kojak is like on the lookout for like Grandmore outside because like he's Bez's partner in crime. They have to take a boat, which is an excellent way to do forced proximity and fall in love because like why fly there and only have 8 hours of forced proximity when you could make them go on a boat for 2 weeks? And that's what they do. And they have to, friends, it's not just forced proximity. They have to pretend to be married because spouses ride for free. So they're going on a cargo boat. It's not like a cruise ship. They're going on a cargo ship.
But it's basically a cruise ship.
Yeah, it's a really fucking nice cargo ship.
Yeah. Which maybe all cargo ships are like that. I wouldn't know that. I wouldn't know.
No, this one is specifically like they're like, yeah, the person who owns this like cares about the workers and like they made it like nice.
Mm-hmm.
Bez is like doing like running security or whatever for the cargo ship to like work her way across, and spouses get to go for free, so they're pretending it's their honeymoon. And not not only is it forced proximity, not only is it fake marriage, but it is also only one bed. Because they give them like the quote unquote honeymoon suite, and they're like, and Bez gives this whole impassioned speech about how it's stupid that married couples have to share a bed. And I was like, yes. She's like, I like to be on my own. Like, I like to sleep on the own. And if I'm sleeping with someone else, I want it to be because they want to be there and like we're like having some fun. Like I like to starfish out.
She's like, how bizarre to force yourself to sleep next to someone every night just because you love them. It's true.
Yeah, I was very on board with this. But I'm specifically on board with like separate beds, separate rooms. The
Oh,
separate rooms is
yeah.
what's important because I just feel like it really
Oh.
isn't as effective if you have separate beds in the same room.
I disagree.
Like it makes a difference, but for me, like one of the main benefits of separate beds is not having to like worry about like when one of you is going to bed or like getting up or like
Yeah.
making noises or like if one of you
Yeah.
snores.
No,
Like,
but I would say 80% of the work is done by the separate beds, 20%. But like, because if someone's coming to bed, like, I feel like the weight, like the moving of the mattress, you know what I mean, is like the
yeah,
primary thing. Sure, the noise too, but like it's, I don't know.
but it's like you have to fumble around in the dark. Like
Sure,
if one of you goes to bed later and then the other one gets up earlier, like you both have to fumble around in the dark half the time.
Mhm.
Or be an asshole and turn on the light. Like either way,
Mhm.
not good.
Yeah.
But yes, I was like on board. I love only one bed, but I'm on board with the two beds, as I've said ad nauseum now. There's also a suspicious man on the boat named AK. He's like the steward, and he's from the kingdom of Druk, which is not, to my knowledge, one of the other royal books by Alyssa Cole. I tried to hunt down whether he gets his own book. Maybe he gets
Mm.
like, maybe there's going to be a third book in this series. Well, that's going to be his book because he's like set up to get
Mhm.
a story. And so far, to my knowledge, Alyssa Cole hasn't written it. But yeah, you learn. Should we just say?
Yeah, so the whole time, like, Bez is like, "You look really fucking familiar," and he's like, "I'm a Southeast Asian man traveling in the West." A lot of people think he tries to, like, play it off as, like, you're just, like, vaguely racist,
Racist?
and Bez
Yeah.
is like, "I'm fucking on to you," and it turns out it's because of her time at royalmatch.com. He's, like, the heir to the kingdom of Druk, but he's been, like, neglecting his duties and making his sister do all the work for, like, years,
Yeah, he's like
just
been traveling around to find himself. TM. We also get some sort of setup. He like implies that like he was in love, but like he lost her because he was like dumb. So I was like, oh, is his story going to be a second chance? Maybe, I don't know, because again, it hasn't been written. But yeah, he's like set up. That's like revealed like at the end, but it's not like, oh my god, he's the Prince of Druck. It's just like, okay, he's also secret royalty. Great. But at the beginning, I was like, is he going to be a villain? Like, I thought he was going to be like suspicious
Yeah,
in some way, but he's like not. He's just
right.
like very chill.
Makeda is, like, still pretty pissed. Bez, like, is, like, shocked that she feels guilty about it. She's like, "I feel like a dinghy being tossed in the waves of someone else's emotions."
Right.
I'm
Because
like, "That's fine."
Makeda, for
Yeah.
the first time in her life, demands an apology from someone. She's like,
Right.
you like made me think we were going to travel on like a plane. Like you're making me lie about this fake marriage thing. Like, I don't like it. You owe me an apology. And Bez
Right.
is like, you owe me like, you should apologize to me because like I did all this stuff and like, you don't even care. And Makeda is like, oh, she doesn't take my feelings seriously. Like I thought she
Mhm.
did, but like she doesn't. And
Mhm.
Bez is like realizes that she broke rule number 2.
Yeah. And later apologizes.
She's like, oh, I made her upset. I need to do the opposite. I
Yes.
understand. She asked me to apologize. Now I will
Well,
apologize.
no, one of the rules is if you piss her off, apologize.
Yeah. But yeah, Makeda is basically like, she's like, I don't like that I have to lie to like all these people. But like if we're gonna lie, we're gonna do it right. So like basically we're gonna pretend to be fake married. Like we're gonna be like
Mhm.
married this entire time. Like we're never gonna let up the act. And I was like, excellent. I love when like for romance reasons, they're like, yes, we must fully commit to this act because it just leaves more opportunity for angst. However, they're not sleeping on the same bed. Like Bez is sleeping on the couch, unfortunately. And I also like that every time Makeda shows a personality trait, Bez is like, is this a reflection of her royal heritage? Is this the famous like
Yes.
temper? Is this the famous like all these things? And I'm like, oh my god, ma'am, you're trying to put like a square peg into a round hole.
The innate leadership of the Al Horadazi line. So they're like, they make friends with the crew. They meet everyone. And we find out this is like a very egalitarian ship where, like, as we said before, like everyone needs to be happy.
Yeah, and how like people shouldn't get special treatment just because they have like a different title. Like how they're like, yes, we like maintain the hierarchy because you need to do that in order to like be safe and run effectively, but like everyone is still like treated with respect. And I was like, this seems like very anti-monarchist for like a monarch book. Like, do I set some revolution here?
Well, that's basically Bez's whole thing is like taking it down from the inside while simultaneously being like, we need to find the hair.
For tourism. She needs the air for tourism and to
for
avenge her
tour,
family
and
honor.
that's the primary thing. So Makeda's like, chattering away, like pretending she's not angry. But then the next morning, she is sort of like snippy, and Bez is like, I forgot, you are a grumpy lobster in the morning. And Makeda's like, don't you mean crab? And Bez is like, now crabs are generally good natured creatures, but lobsters can be quite temperamental.
Makeda's like, I'm not gonna ask how she knows so much about crab.
This YouTube series of this man who bought a lobster from the grocery store and just like keeps it as a pet. Like at one point he's like, I think Leon could use some friends, Leon the lobster. So he gets him some fish, like little fish, but the fish like bully Leon, and like he's like the cat when the dog was here. He like who won't come out of his shell. So then he moves the fish to their own tank. I don't know. I wonder how Leon's doing. I don't know.
I hope he's doing. How long do lobsters live?
Long time, like 15, 20 years. Are they? No. Excuse me. They can live up to more than 100 years. Their average lifespan is 45 to 50 years.
What the Leon?
We eat them. And we eat
Wow.
them. And like and poor Leon, like, because he came from a grocery store, so his claws were tied up. So he had to basically do physical therapy to like get his claw strength back. Like when he took it off, there was like marks from where the rubber bands were. And it took him like weeks of like practice with the claw. Like he would like put like a claw in there for him to like grab onto. Yeah. To be able to like open. I know. It's horrible. And we have no idea how long he was in there. Like they can be obviously, And like this man is very much not the kind that I would expect. Like I think he has like a southern accent. He's very much like the kind that I would expect to be like, I'm gonna go down and like fish for some lobster, but instead he's like, here's Leon the lobster, my friend. Like
when I saw this video of this man who is also like, he was like a like deep like southern man, and he like I guess saw a stray kitten on the road, so he like pulled over to rescue it, and then he's like, I thought there was only one, but there are more coming out of the bushes. And then it's just like a minute of him being like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god.
9 of them, right? Yeah, I think I saw.
And they just all come and they're like sniffing. They're like all like, they love him. And he like puts them in the back of his truck, like car, and he's like, now I have 9 kittens. Yeah. At one point, Makeda's like they're talking about their agreement, and Makeda like basically says that she like reads the fine print, and I was like, oh my god, she reads the fine print and Bez reads the fine print, which means they're soulmates. Yes. Incredible. Like what a way to show us that they're soulmates.
Well, they're also soulmates in like Bez is not a people pleaser, but her whole thing is like, at one point she's like, my grandma was always telling me that I don't need to fix problems that no one asked me to fix. And yet I can't stop myself. And that's exactly, I was like, that could so easily be about Makeda.
Same goal, different methods. And Bez is also at one point, they're like getting a tour of the ship, and like Makeda's learning ship safety protocols or whatever. And Bez is like, don't fall off the ship because I will be literally so annoyed when I have to jump in after you. It's going to be like so fucking annoying. Don't do that.
Yeah, she's like, no one will hear you scream over the motor and they'll probably not even see you. But I was like, why would no one like, and we find out there's like only like 10 people on the ship, so it makes sense. But like generally, I don't understand why no one would notice you fall off. Like how often? I've never been on a cruise ship, but like I can't imagine that you're alone that often. I get Titanic would say otherwise, I guess, but like
I mean, it just depends where you are and when.
Mm-hmm. So Makeda's like kind of bored, and she decides to. She stumbles upon the library, and she's like, these books are totally out of order. Let me stack and alphabetize them. And she spends the next like 3 days doing that. Until AK walks in one day and he's like, what are you doing? And she's like, I was organizing these disorganized books. And he's like, actually, those books are in my personal order that I spent the past 3 years doing.
Oh, she's like,
which, yeah, is so yeah, she's like, whoops, like I shouldn't have done that. But I'm also like, yeah, it's your personal order, but is this your personal library? Like it doesn't seem like a system that anyone else would really be able to easily use. It is his ship, but like if he wants other people to use the library.
Office. It's not like the library, it's his office.
Oh, she snuck into his
like
office.
The records. Oh. It's like the records next, like the record room next to his office.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, Bez calls her dad and finds out that like, so they can't really call people. They don't have service, obviously, because like they're in the middle of the fucking ocean. So they have like every few days like a satellite phone call allotment time. And Bez like calls her dad and finds out that Higginshagen moved up the date of the announcement. So like now they're literally going to arrive on the day of the announcement. So it's like, oh no, there's like the timeline, there's more pressure, there's more tension. And also like Higginshagen has been harassing her grandma. And she's like, why are you talking to my grandma? And Higginshocken like isn't picking up her calls. And every time she tries to call the World Federation of Monarchists, they like hang up on her or like all this shit. And she's like, something shady is going on. But I'm also wondering, like, why doesn't Bez just call the Minister of Tourism?
Right.
I just feel like she's definitely like would have their contact information, it feels like.
Yeah, because I guess the World Federation of Monarchists is like running this, and like she doesn't at this point. She just like cannot. She's like, I have found the correct error. I cannot conceptualize that they would not be most interested in only finding the correct error. They could have any other possible motive besides my motive.
Yeah, but also she's like the Minister of Tourism keeps trying to keeps contacting her grandmother to try to like get her grandmother to like do an interview about the time she lost the Queen, and like. So I was like, that we definitely have the Minister of Tourism's contact information, and I think you should be exploring that option, but they don't.
Yeah, she doesn't. And so she's like, basically this whole ship ride, she struggles with like guilt over not telling Makeda the full truth that like no one actually knows she's coming, which just like, that's like the worst feeling when like someone like convinces you and basically strong arms you into doing something, and then it turns out that like by like saying it's like necessary or something, and then it like turns out, I don't know how to describe it, but I feel like I've been in this situation. Like, you know what I mean? Like convinces you to do it because you're like absolutely essential. And it turns out that like
you really weren't.
No one even knew. Like it was totally unnecessary. Like that's how this feels. And her dad's like, why are you on this fucking cargo ship? Like, you know, we can afford it. Why don't you just ask us to pay for the flight? And Bez is like, that quite literally never occurred to me. Like the dad's like...
Oh man.
Yeah, Bez just keeps thinking like, I don't know why Makeda is so like distant to me but nice to everyone else, even though I've known her the longest. Like I've known her the longest.
I've known her for a whole week.
Yeah. And then so Makeda's like been trying to wrangle the truth out of Bez this whole time. She's like, you're not telling me something, I know it. And she's like, Bez reminded Makeda of Kojak the cat when he wanted pets but then appeared shocked and angry when he got them. So the next big thing that happens is there's a storm of brewing, and she's like all ready to hunker down. She's like, I hope Bez comes home tonight. I don't want to be by myself. And Bez walks in. She's like visibly shaken, and Makeda's like,
she's like basically having a panic attack. Yeah.
She's like, my instinct is to help and figure it out, but I can tell that's not what Bez needs right now. Like it would hurt her. Like, I don't know. Like she just needs to deal with it in her own way. And Bez finally explains, she's like, I was on duty right now, and I thought I saw a body in the water. But there wasn't a body, but it's because I was having like a flashback to the time when I was, it wasn't when she was in the.
Yeah, so basically what it was, so Bez was like, she was like in the military, and she like signed up for the military for the ideals, and basically she was like, when I was in the military, I think she was like, I assume like whatever, the Navy, she was like in the Navy or whatever, she was on boats, and she was like, because we were in the Mediterranean, we would see refugees all the time, and we were always told like like we weren't allowed to help them. And then she was like, after I got out of the military, I went into like maritime security, and then like every time we weren't allowed to help the refugees either because we were told like, oh, the military will handle it. And she was like, well, I know the military doesn't handle it. And so yeah, one night there's like another storm and she sees refugees
and their boat's like capsizing, and she's told to not go help them, but she waits a little bit but then steals a lifeboat and is like halfway paddling to them before she like thinks about what she's doing. And she rescues most of the people, but she's like, I saved most of them instead of all of them because I waited and like obeyed these stupid rules, and like I did get in a lot of trouble for that, but like, you know,
she gets fired or whatever,
right? And she's like, obviously like I don't regret it, but
and she was like, but like I still feel really guilty, obviously, because she's like, there were so many people that I didn't save because I like justified it by being like, oh, I was just following orders, and like it was really, and that's like her whole thing why she's like lying on the job doesn't count. You know what I mean? Because she's like, it's the only way like I can live with myself, to be like, oh, if you're doing your job, like the bad things that you do don't count, because like otherwise like it would be even worse for her.
So Makeda like obviously has the urge to comfort, but she resists it.
Basically emotional intimacy leads to sex, as usual.
But somehow while simultaneously though like holding yourself in place from like 50-foot waves. Just like
whatever. It's excellent. They finally share the goddamn bed, and Bez says, she says, the storm is loud. If you want me to hear you, you're going to have to scream. And I was like, oh I love storm related sexy talk.
It's almost as good as, what was it, smudgy glasses.
They get a honeymoon party.
Oh yeah, they get a honeymoon party. So the crew throws them
I
like
just thought that was cute. It's
cute
not really like
party.
nothing really
But
happens.
they also have like a scene where Bez is like, I need to own up to you. And Makeda's like, don't tell me. This was such a perfect night with the honeymoon party. And Bez's like, no, I need to tell you. Like, no one knows we're coming. I'm sorry. And when that doesn't immediately fix all the problems, Bez is like, interesting. I have learned that communication does not solve all the problems. Interesting. So they show up to Almirania, and Bez's whole family is waiting for them because someone snitched. I can't remember who. Like someone on the crew,
like
told
just one of the
them.
crew members were
Yeah.
like, yeah, like they're married, like she's married. So they're like, oh my God, we want to meet your wife. So everybody thinks they're married. Makeda's mom is also there. So Makeda's like upset about it. But like basically everyone is like, yeah, you got married on the high seas. Cause like it's a thing. Like I guess captains like have the power to like wed you or whatever.
And so we like meet her family, and Makeda's like, I look into their eyes and I can tell that her parents are both chaos agents. So obviously there's no chance for Bez. Like she was always going to come out. Like,
yeah, she was like, she combined. It was like 2 chaos agents were combined to make Bez.
And she has some siblings, most notably the twins Fabrizio and Fabrizia, which
excellent.
It's chaotic in the worst way. It's chaotic in like the
it
child
works
abuse
in a
way.
book. You know what I mean? Like in real life, if I met 2 twins named Fabrizio and Fabrizia, I'd be like, why did you do this? In a book, it's fabulous and hilarious. Like, and then Bez tells like Makeda and her mom were talking. Her mom obviously still sucks. And Bez tells Makeda's mom off, and she's like, you're not here for like Makeda. Like you don't actually care about her. Like maybe you should care about her instead of this princess thing. And these scenes are my catnip. Like I like a significant other telling parents off. Like it's even better, frankly, than like actual like child telling like their shitty parent off. Like significant other telling, it's just like I love it. Like that's the modern day like knight rescues princess from tower shit that I want. Like I yes, perfect. No notes.
Fair enough. Also, I forget if we mentioned that Bez has been fired from her job. Like they're like, you have a history of untoward behavior and pathological lying. And I was like, you know what? Before this book, I could not have seen a way to make a character who, when you look back at it, she is the cold hard facts spell out pathological liar.
But somehow I'm rooting for her.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Makeda also confesses she's like, yeah, I was gonna like betray you, basically. I was gonna double cross you. Like my intention was to like disprove this whole princess thing. And Bez was like, all right, we're gonna have a way to like, I'm gonna help you. Like we're gonna both get us what we want. So they go to the royal ball, the quote unquote royal ball.
First they go to the DNA lab. And like,
I know. I just don't. I just think it was like useless. They submit the DNA sample. That's how you prove.
But this whole time I was like, because it was always implied that they were just gonna like choose the heir based on like an application process, and I was like, why don't they do DNA testing? But then I was like, there must be because there's no one to DNA test against. But then DNA testing at a late stage is mentioned. It's still not explained whose DNA they're testing against, because if she had other relatives, presumably they would be the fucking heirs.
Like the like corpses. I mean, that sounds like
no,
really
they don't. Oh, his corpse. Yeah, that's true.
Like it's how you know how they found like Richard III's body under a parking lot, and they figured out it was Richard III because they like DNA tested him through the queen or whatever. Like,
but then I just don't understand why DNA wasn't like why they were ever just gonna do a fucking like college application process. It's so fucking stupid.
I don't know. That was very vague. I don't know whether that was ever like very explicitly laid out that that's how it was going to do, or whether like that was just the assumption we had. Anyway, they go to the royal ball, and it's like super lame and like cheap. Like it was like they're like, wow, this is like super lame, but like whatever, we look hot. And and then we have the reverse scene of like call out like where Makeda calls out Bez's grandma, and which is a little less justified because Bez's grandma doesn't necessarily like suck. They have like a very like bantery relationship where they like make fun of each other, but like Makeda doesn't realize that, so Makeda's also like, hey, be nice to her, she's excellent. And like Bez's grandmother is like, oh, I like her. Oh, she's a good one. Like, good one. Also, again, they all still think they're married. This has not been cleared up. Like, despite the fact they're no longer on the boat, none of the boat people are there. They have not cleared up that they're not married yet.
No. And they never will, frankly. Like, it seems like they're just going to continue.
No, like, it seems like they're just going to, I don't know, like, secretly elope to Scotland at one point just to, like, make it legal. And then, like, but yeah, they're never going to tell anyone that they're not. Sorry, there are sirens. Wait just a second. Oh my God, the other day, this couple was having a very loud fight. for like an hour out on the street below, and I was just like nose pressed up again. So I was like, oh, what's going on? But I was also like one hand like on my phone, like ready to call the cops if it turned violent, because they were like, it was definitely very like explosive, the argument, but like they didn't touch each other, but there was like some like, you know, I was like, this could get physical. Anyway, so they announced the heir. They're like, here is the result of the DNA test.
I just took a DNA test. Turns out 100% that bitch. That's the plot of this movie.
I'm 100% that princess.
Princess. Even
that
when
queen.
I'm crying crazy. Yeah.
Okay. So they announced the results, and they're like, they call Makeda's name, and Makeda and Bez are like, that's not possible, because we gave them Bez's DNA sample so that like it would seem like Makeda like wasn't actually the heir. Yeah. And so Bez is like, oh, I'm the fucking queen.
So Lord Higginshoggins gets up and he's like, these people are fucking liars. Like, it's so fake. I'm the heir, because everyone knows that Queen Azee went to Higginshoggin. And I predicted this like halfway through. I was like, wait, as soon as he stopped answering the calls, I was like, so wait, somehow Higginshoggins is like angling for this shit.
Oh, I didn't see this coming at all.
Oh, I wrote it. Yeah, I wrote it down.
Like, I didn't write Higginshoggins' name down until almost the very end, because I assumed he was just like a funny, like a comedic relief side character. So I didn't realize he was going to be like a villain.
Mid-villain rant, he just like gives a cry of pain and collapses because Grandma Henrietta is behind him, and Bez is like, did you fucking stab him? And she's like, she's not worried that she murdered someone. She's like, I'm just worried she murdered someone on camera, because this is televised. And Henrietta's like, no, I just incapacitated him. I never taught you that move for a reason.
Yeah,
like,
she's like, reason? She essentially did like the Vulcan neck pinch or something, where you just like hit the right nerve and like the person goes down. Well, the grandma never taught Bez it, because she knows that Bez would be like too powerful if she had that in her arsenal. Or because she's like, you're already lethal enough. Like, you don't need to know this.
And so the grandma is like, she gets up and she's like, this is my business. I kept it a secret. You twist my arm, but like actually, like you made
Lord Higginshoggin was blackmailing me about this,
and he would have
succeeded
away
if
with
it weren't for you meddling kids.
She like wanted him to succeed, so she was like, basically, so something we didn't mention, but like it was a minor source of tension between Bez and Makeda, is that like the guard and like the royalty aren't supposed to like canoodle, you know, like they're not. It's like inappropriate. Right? Yeah, like fuck, it's bad, and that's been a tradition for a long time. So when the grandma, like the grandma growing up, Henrietta, she was best friends with the previous king. I can't remember his name. And they were best friends. They were like in love, but because of royalmatch.com, he had to marry Queen Azee. And I guess Queen Azee was also Henrietta's friend. And they were like not a very good match, and they both knew it. But there was nothing they could really do about it. So then like during the war, the like vague war, which I think maybe it said World War II.
I think maybe World War II, because it is like they're definitely old.
So Queen Azee, I guess, like evacuated, but the king was like, I have to stay and protect my kingdom. And that's when him and Henrietta get it on, as it were. And he like
have like one night of passion where like I wasn't the king's guard, and he wasn't the king. We were just two friends who loved each other.
Yeah. But then he dies.
Tragic.
Very tragic. And she's preggo. But then she confesses everything to Queen Azee, and Queen Azee is like, this is fucking great. This means that I can go putz off to Australia and live my life, and there'll still be an heir. Like, because I guess like
she's like, I don't want to be fucking queen. Like,
right. I guess she would have to rule otherwise.
And you have the like biological heir. So there you go.
So this is great. But instead of telling anyone, Henrietta just keeps it a secret and doesn't.
Because she basically is like, I don't want to like besmirch the king's memory by being like, he like had an affair. Like, because everyone remembered him as like a war hero. So I would rather the monarchy just disappear forever and everyone think that I killed the queen instead of just confessing. Like, everyone was cool with it. You could have had Queen Azee come up and be like,
that's what I'm saying.
Hey, like, I'm totally chill with this. I support it. This is fucking great.
Yeah, like, it doesn't make sense.
I don't understand.
And who did they think Who did they think their actual grandfather was before this? Was she just like, oh, it was a sailor. Like he was sailing through.
Well, maybe
like,
she just never told him. Like maybe her like eventual husband like did, because I think she had more than one kid. So it's like just Bez's dad that's like the love child. So like maybe she just like married a man, you know what I mean? She was like 6 months pregnant and she like gets married to like some guy and he's like, I know it's not my kid, but like I'll raise as my own, and they just never told them. You know what I mean? Because like I don't think it's ever implied that like it's ever stated that like Bez thinks that anyone besides her
it's true.
grandfather was her grandfather. Yeah, so it turns out that Bez's dad is the king. And now Bez is a princess. And then Bez is like, hey, Makeda, guess what? Everyone thinks we're married. So what does that make you? A princess!
And we
her
never
sister
get clarity.
was a witch.
And it's possible that Makeda is also a princess, like by birth. If assuming that Queen Azee had the ability to also pass it down, that wouldn't make them related. I thought about this a lot for a second. I was like, wait a second. No, they wouldn't be related. But I would, we never find out.
Yeah, so Makeda's grandfather, like biological grandfather, could have been like Queen Azee's son. Like we don't
know, because his story was that his mom was a queen who lost her memory and like just that, so that's just like sounds like bullshit.
Oh, okay.
So he probably just made it, but who knows? Anyway,
he probably just made it up.
So Makeda's like, oh, this is great. Like we can pay off my debt and go back, and like Bez is like, why don't I just come with you, like, and we'll just hang out and live our lives in New Jersey. And like Makeda's like, I can pay off my debt, and Bez is like, you returning with enough money to pay off the debt would have been nice, but it would be nicer if someone scared your ex Amber into remembering her obligation.
Yeah, so basically Bez threatened Amber until like Amber agreed to like pay her loan herself, which is amazing. Also, like when Bez finds out, she goes up to her grandmother and she's like, so I'm descended from the two most prestigious families on the island, and my belief that I'm better than everyone is backed up with evidence. It's like incredible. Like she's gone through this whole journey and growth, but she's still like, I'm better than you. Don't ever get it twisted.
Get ready. You're gonna be sick of me. You're gonna be sick of me. That's what it is. Yeah.
It's incredible. I love it. The self-confidence is outstanding.
Bez kissed her just to seal the deal. That's all she wrote. She being Alyssa Cole.
And then Kojak the cat parachuted out of the sky
to join the celebration
flying here the whole time. Not really, in case it wasn't obvious that was a joke. I wish there was an epilogue in which they were just like in bed cuddling and Kojak the cat was there. That's what I would like. Yeah, that's it. Speaking of cats,
cat scale
very high.
I
don't know whether Bez was a cat.
No, Bez a dog, but a dog with pet cats. The same way that the exact same way that Persephone and Hades are cats with pet dogs, Bez is a dog with a pet cat.
Yeah
It's like the inverse.
I think Makeda's a cat though.
Yeah, Makeda's a cat. Well, that's one of Bez's pet cats. Just kidding. Kojak.
Yeah.
She keeps being like, oh, pet. And Makeda, just the same way that the grandma's like, my baby, meaning Kojak.
Yeah.
Bez is like, oh, pet. And Makeda's like, what? Me? And she's like, no, I mean Kojak. Get out of here. Or Kojak, or reversed.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think none of the crew members were like, they had personalities, but they were still kind of like, they were very like firmly background characters. There really weren't like, this was like Grandmore was a character, but like other than that, like it was really just Bez and Makeda.
But it somehow felt like a pretty full world.
Yeah, no, I wasn't saying that as if like the characters were developed, they just didn't have prominent roles. Like it was very, very focused on the main couple in a way that I think a lot of romances aren't.
Really?
No, like I mean, like all romance is focused on the main couple. Like that's the definition of like genre romance, is that it's like a central love story. I just mean like, I don't know, this book was like hyper focused on the main, like there was the princess subplot, but even this princess subplot was like still Makeda and Bet, you know what I mean? Like there weren't really like,
I don't know,
other wheels, like other cogs.
I used to get annoyed when I first started reading romance and they would like introduce like friend characters and then we would see them in the first like 20% of the book and then not until the last 5%. and I would be like, what the heck? But then I just like got used. So maybe I'm like a lobster being like boiled.
But then
so I
you
don't
realize
notice it as much.
Then you realize that they got their own book. You get a
Yeah.
whole book with those side
Right,
characters.
but it's
That's
not
how
the
romance
same.
works.
Sure, but it's not the same. It's like, I'm like used to it now, so I don't really like. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
I don't know. I can't really put a finger on it. This just felt like more hyper
Yeah.
focused on the couple in a way that I haven't read in a while. And that's not like good or bad. That's not a positive or negative for me.
All right, Catskill. 3,
Ready?
2, 1,
1, 8.
Jinx, yummy soda.
Wow.
Nice.
We didn't say
Why
it at
does
the
it
same time on
always?
my
It
end. We
always
didn't say-
lags. No, we didn't say it at the same time on my end either. It always lags on the Catskill. Okay, Alison, where can they find us? Ooh, where can they find us?
Well, you can find us on Instagram and Facebook at We Read It One Night. And you can find us on TikTok.
We Read It One Night. We also now have a secondary account called at We Read It Pod.
Yeah, I think we said that last episode.
Which is doing pretty well. We have almost 1,000 followers, and we have our highest ever video views on a video there. I think it's up to like 3.4 million, which is
about
more
how
than
Swedish people don't feed their guests.
Yeah,
I'm not going to
which
elaborate on that.
Twitter,
just like know that
Google
Swedish
it.
people don't feed their guests.
Yeah.
Oh, you can also find us on Twitter at We Read It Podcast and email us We Read It One Night at gmail.com. Send us your requests for books that you want us to do next. We've done a lot of books. I mean, romance is like does a lot of series, like where each book is a standalone. And so like if you want us to do more books from that series or like more books by an author that we've already done, let us know.
Godspeed, comrades.
Godspeed.